Welcome to the Vault Studios NFL podcast, an Australian twist on all things NFL. The boys are cracking into a nice cold beer from Burnley Brewing. Let's join them.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, James Arthur, and I am joined, as always, by my good mate, Richie Garraway. How are you, buddy?
Excellent, James. How are you?
Good. I was going to wait till we do this, but let's quickly talk Alabama because we know we're not a college show and we know I don't love college football, but I watched it today and Alabama are way too good. It's very unfair. What Devonta Smith winning the Heisman last week, first time a wide receiver's won it since 1991, which is incredible considering some of the numbers wide receivers put up in college football. But what he did in the first half was 12 receptions for 212 yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. I was talking to someone and I said, "Oh, look, it was 21-17 and there was 2.5 minutes left." I said, "Oh, it's almost halftime. That'll probably be a halftime score." And before I knew it, it was 35-17. Alabama scored 3 times in the space of, or 42 or something. They scored 3 times in the space of 2 minutes. And I was like, this is over. Like, there's no way they catch them now. It was pretty incredible. And Nick Saban obviously gets that lead in the record book over Bear Bryant. He's now got the 7 national championships and, is the best, most successful college coach in the history of college football.
Yeah, you put it in a pretty neat bow. I think the Alabama run, as much as I'm sure a lot of people are sick of it, quite frankly, me included, I don't see any end in sight. He brings in 15 5-star recruits every year minimum, and they just keep on rolling. If you look at the receiver classes or the running back class, just go back a couple of years and have a look at them. They're all in the NFL now. They're all starters. They're all really good. Sure, you miss on them every now and then, but this would be like an NFL team having 15 first-round picks every year. That's really what we have here, and that's just the way recruiting works. And even with scholarship limits and you can't oversign anymore and all the things they've done to try and even it out, he just brings in tons of talent every year. Because he walks into your parents' house, sits down on your couch and says, "Cool, what's your ring size? Because we're going to win 2 national championships while you're here, minimum."
And you want to play in the NFL? I have like 20 kids go there a year.
Yeah, and I have great relationships with just about every head coach in the NFL.
Every head coach goes, "What's this kid like?" And I tell him, "Hey, he's a second-round pick. Don't miss out on him. He's a jet." "Hey, what do you think of Derrick Henry?" "Yeah, he's really good. He's probably going to be the best running back in the league. You should draft him."
There's a lot of Alabama kids in the NFL, and
he's going to have for the third year, like this year. Devonta Smith is going in the first round. He's going in the top 5 potentially, definitely top 10
now. He's definitely going top 5 now.
You're going to have Waddle go in the top in the first round. Last year they had 2 Judy and Ruggs in the first round. The year before it was N'Keal Harry. He just constantly, and then there's running backs. Like, who's the running back this year? I've forgotten his name already. I watched it. He was pretty good today too.
I've got here. So I didn't see it today, so I'm not.
Either way, he's going to the NFL, no doubt about it. He had Kamara in his hand at one point, Derrick Henry, Trent Richardson, who obviously didn't work out in the NFL, but that's not Nick Saban's fault. He worked out in college. Ingram from who's now at Baltimore. I've forgotten his first name. Don't know. Mark Ingram. Yeah. Sorry. They're just everywhere. His players, offensive linemen. They're just
it's tons of them.
It's just defensive linemen. It's insane. I've never seen almost any. You go into any NFL team and throw a dartboard, you'll most likely hit a player that's from Alabama. That's how good they are. Which is it's a great system. And congratulations. I know a lot of people hate it. They're kind of like the Patriots to me, Rich. You know what I used to say about the Patriots is I don't hate the Patriots. I respect the crap out of them, what they're able to do. I don't like them winning every year. I don't like Alabama winning every year or every second year. But it's hard to sit back and not respect that. And if you can't sit back from an outside point of view and go, I'm a fan of Oregon or whoever you are, and not sit back and go, that's incredible, then I think you're a bit bitter. I think you need to sit back and enjoy moments like this because this will never come around again what Alabama are doing. Not in our lifetime.
Not like this. The closest thing, even in my lifetime, is to the Miami run, and they weren't this successful. So it's incredible what Nick Saban has done down there, and he'll be there as long as he wants to be there.
Yep.
Really.
100%. Well, congrats to Alabama. Congrats to all the Alabama fans in Australia, which I know there's a ton there. A lot of Alabama and Patriot fans, actually. Didn't realise. I don't know why they're all such massive fans of them. Before we
the Yankees too.
Yeah, Yankees as well.
And Lakers.
Lakers, yeah. All of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
They like all those teams.
I barrack for whoever LeBron goes to in the NBA. That's all I care about. Just where's my boy Bronny? That's what I'm all about. If Bron's there, I'm there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Some call me a front runner, you know? Not me. Let's quickly mention our good friends at Burnley Brewing, 648 Bridge Road, Richmond. Their undying support. We love you guys very much. I'm having a draft tonight. I can't get enough of the drafts. I tried the lager the other day, which is I loved before, and it's delicious. And I just was like, no, I don't want the draft. When it's hot, when it's warm weather like this, I cannot get enough of the draft, Richie. So thoroughly enjoying that one. And also our friends at Breaking Oz Memorabilia. Thanks for your support. Obviously, we did mention last week the Patreon has ended, but we did do the last helmet today from them to the Patreon supporters. They got into the break. It was a Deshaun Watson, which I've showed a couple of times. Congratulations to the winner. And what I've got a bit of an announcement now, what we're doing with the Patreon. I'm going to be putting it up tonight, adding the new section tonight. I'm going to bring back the $10 a month Patreon, but it's going to be a bit different. It's not sponsored by anyone. There's no sponsorship around it. But what I'm going to be doing is I've got a few ins now with people that bring in signed jerseys, mini helmets, full-size helmets, all that sort of stuff. And what we're going to be doing is anyone who signs up to be a $10 Patreon, they're going to get a chance to win either a signed jersey or a signed mini helmet. So you need to sign up the first one's going to be the end of February. Okay, so basically how Patreon works, you sign up, don't sign up during January, hold off because it'll charge you and we won't be, so I won't make it active until February. What we're going to do is the month of February, on the 1st of March, it'll charge you and then your $10 and you'll then go into I will do the break on like the 3rd or 4th of March. And what it's going to be, it's not going to be a break where other people are in it. Only patrons are in it. So if we only have 10 patrons, you've got a 1 in 10 chance of winning a signed jersey or a signed mini helmet. It'll be a random one every month. That's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to be launching that basically the start of February. The first week, the 1st of February, it'll be open and people can start signing up to that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put prerequisites in it. So if it's less than 15 people, I'll do 1 jersey per month or 1 mini helmet per month. If we get to more than 25 people, I'll do 2. So basically I want to keep it that you have about a 1 in 15 to 1 in 12 sort of chance at winning something. But as a special to start it off, I'm going to do for the first month, I'm going to do a signed jersey and a signed mini helmet. And there'll be 2. So there'll be 2 to win. Same winner can't win twice. You can only win once per month. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing with our Patreon. So look for that to get started. Obviously you'll hear about it for the next few weeks. But look for that to get started. And if you can afford to sign up for $10 a month, I think it's a really good way to win some cool jerseys. And we all know I love players, so I won't be giving you any duds. I'll make sure some of the guys we get in are some pretty cool ones, all right? So get in with that. But Richie, without further ado, let's crack into a little bit of news. And I want to start with one I was a bit surprised of because of how late it came in the offseason, from Black Monday. Eagles decide to part ways with head coach Doug Peterson. It was a bit of a shock. I don't think he was certainly out of line to be fired. I think the moves he's made in the last couple of years and, the drafting and overall everything they've done, the way they've dropped off since, 4 years removed from winning a Super Bowl, but the way they've dropped off from there, has been pretty dramatic. But just the wait, why wait a week? It's almost like they had a meeting with him and then walked out of the meeting saying, no, he's done.
Bit rough. And also I think you put a bit more time on it. I'm pretty sure that Super Bowl was 2018 or the 2017 season.
Yeah. I think this was the 4th season since.
Yeah. So either way, tough gig. You're not going to hear me going to the wall for Pedersen. I don't think he was that outstanding. And since that initial year, they've really been on the snide ever since.
And I think you can knock that year. We've said it a bunch of times. Frank Reich, who's now the head coach at Indianapolis, who's done a great job there, I think you could probably put a bit of the offensive success that year on him, because since he's left, it's been a downhill slide almost immediately.
Yeah, and just continually got worse.
Yeah.
And whoever comes in there, they got big decisions to make. Because there's a huge salary cap hit if you want to go and part ways, with your starting quarterback. So it's they have to get an offensive guy in there, because you're not going to get a red hot offensive coordinator, because there's so many open jobs now. There's like 7.
Yeah.
So if you're the red hot coordinator name, you can go get a head coaching job. So why would you take Philly's offensive coordinator job? So it's going to be, it's going to have to be an offensive guy, because they got to fix him. They're paying him way too much money, and the cap hit for next year, the year after, they can get out of it. But for 2021, the 2021 season, they've got to roll with him, because the cap hit is massive if they don't. And the cap is coming down. I'm telling everyone it's coming down. So you can't go paying out tons and tons of dead money, because you can't get anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a shock to me. I don't like Doug Peterson, and I really don't like him after what he did in the Washington game. I think that was, I don't know if that's had a say in his firing. You will never know. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the meeting they had.
It was just a bit of dirty pool. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah,
he was just sizing up for a better draft pick. Like, I get why he did it.
Yeah,
and to say he wanted to have a look at his third string quarterback. I can't remember who it was now. Like, spare me. Like, you wanted a better draft pick.
Yeah,
that's fine, but own it. Come out and say it. But hey, it's cost him his job, so see ya.
Yeah, it was an odd one, and I think they're at the we did the rankings last week. I think I'd probably rank them over a couple of teams, but there's certainly a few I take above them. They've got bloated salary cap. They've got overpaid veterans who don't deliver anymore. I don't know, like even guys like Fletcher Cox. Like, I love Fletcher Cox, but his age is starting to show now. It's really hard to play defensive tackle and offensive line at a high level for a really long time in the NFL, because it's physically demanding. That's the bottom line. Yeah,
and I'm just having a quick look, because I find average age really interesting. Because it helps give you a bit of a guide. Are they on the way up? Are they on the way down? And the Eagles, look, they're somewhere in the middle of the pack. The Falcons are the oldest, interestingly enough, which is another obviously open job right now. But I think the most worrying thing is just looking at the Jets are right next to the Eagles. You're a bad team. You can't be that old. Like, if you're going to be bad, you got to be like the Jags and be the average youngest team in the NFL.
Nah, but they had Joe Flacco on their team. That would have brought the age up a bit. I think the Jets would have a lot of like 1 year veteran guys, because they're like, who the hell's going to play for us? We're going to have to sign some dudes. They got Frank Gore. There's the other. Is Frank? No, yeah, Frank Gore's at the Jets. Yeah, they got Frank Gore. They're pretty.
That'll bring your average up.
A couple of guys bringing the average up, but
one that jumps out on me, and I know we're way off topic. Browns, fourth youngest.
Oh, don't worry, the Browns are coming, Rich. You can't wipe that smirk off your face. Before we move on, let's talk about the Cowboys. They hired Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator. I'll get your thoughts first, Rich.
Hate it. Boys club.
Bros high bros.
Yeah, bros high bros. He had some good moments in Atlanta, but the last 5 years have been terrible.
Yeah, can I say, though, he was an outstanding defensive coordinator in Seattle first. That's all I'm going to say. He's had a good history he's been a very good D coordinator in the past.
It's a quite different system, too, that he runs, so it's going to take a while to get his dudes in the building.
I think the way the Cowboys defense was last year, change it however you want. Start again. There's no reason to think you've got to come in and try and, like, if there's a guy that doesn't fit your scheme, if you're Dan Quinn, get rid of him. There's really there's no one on that team that I like. Even a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence and that like bloated contract. If he's not a part, if he doesn't fit your scheme, move him on. Someone will trade for him. Someone will want him. Someone will want him that'll fit his scheme. Move guys on, because it couldn't be worse than that defense was last year. It really couldn't. And Mike Nolan, who was a DC, the DC last year, just dreadful, and only has a history of being a dreadful coordinator. At least Dan Quinn's got some clout behind him as a DC. At least he's been successful.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly true. But you're right. You get rid of one old fart to bring another. I mean, how old was Mike Nolan? Like he had to be 60, right?
Yep.
He has to be 60.
I'll look it up quick.
So what's now your best mate Dan Quinn?
Mike Nolan is 61 years old.
Oh, jeez, I nearly nailed it.
I don't think Dan Quinn's as old as you think he is, mate. He's
2
50.
years.
He's 50. You know what, though?
50.
Just quietly for Dan Quinn, good on you, mate. You don't look 50 at all. Well done. I'm impressed, Dan. It's still 10 years younger. So, look, as I said, it couldn't be worse. I've made my opinion on the Cowboys coaching staff incredibly clear. I wanted them all gone. All of them.
I'm sure you don't want to hear this. You're only the 5th worst in scoring defense. So it can get worse if that makes you feel any better. It actually can get worse.
It can't be worse.
You also gave up 160 rushing yards. That was the worst. So that stat can't get any worse. So I'll give you that
can improve there. Can we improve in pass? You know what I do like the Cowboys going forward? Their pass defense. I love Trayvon Diggs. I thought he was outstanding last year. He got burned a few times. There was moments where I thought, but you know what? He generated turnovers, and he was one of those guys. You could see the effort was there all the time, and that's what I like. So, you know what? I said it can't get much worse if it does get worse. And if it gets worse, it's going to be everyone's out. If the Cowboys have another year like that, they're all gone.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Now they've got to get Prescott signed. But let's talk about some teams that are relevant right now, not the Eagles or the Cowboys. Let's go into, obviously, we had the first round of playoff games, the wildcard round. There was 3 in each conference, 6 total for the first time because of the 7 seed.
Loved it. How good was it?
Awesome. And you know what? We couldn't have got a better introduction into a 7 seed playing than we got with the Colts at the Bills. Colts going down 24-27, just outside of field goal range at the end to try and tie it up. The Colts really let a lot of opportunities go in the first half. They kind of had the Bills on the ropes. The Bills weren't playing well. I think everyone, and we were the same. We thought, we were literally saying, what can the Colts do to win? And a lot of it, we're actually trying to not be negative against the Bills because Josh Allen still played really well in this game. So, I'm not going to bag him because he actually played a good game. Now, if a fumble goes a different way later in the game, it could have been a different story. But this was, I think, the best game of football for the entire weekend. It was outstanding. The Colts worked their ass off. We got some vintage Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
And they had a strong comeback, late in the game to try and win it. 14 points in the last quarter to try and win that game. There was, 10, 14. There was 27 points scored in the first 3 quarters, and then there was 24 scored in the last. It's the last game to give you a bit of an idea of how cool the last quarter was. And the Bills kind of would jump a touchdown or 2 touchdowns up, and you think, they're not going to catch them. And then Rivers would just go bang, 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 and score a touchdown in the space of 30 seconds and be back in the game. It was a good game.
Absolutely was. And I agree with you. It was probably the game of the round. And I thought as that final drive was coming together, I was like, Colts going to tie this up. This is going to be tied up. We're going overtime.
We didn't get any free football on the weekend, and I'm filthy about it. I love
that's disappointing.
Yeah, it is. Always
disappointing. But yeah, it was really what we talked about last week. You asked me how they were going to get a win. I said they need a vintage type Rivers performance, and quite frankly, they got one. It'll be very interesting to see if this is it for him.
I've got that as one of my questions. What do you reckon he does?
Look, he doesn't need the money. I know he's got 1,000 kids, but he doesn't need the money.
Riddle me this: if someone said to you, "Hey, you can retire this year and go and spend every day, every day with your 9 kids, or we can give you $20 million to be a part of a football team," what would you do?
Oh, look, I love kids.
That's a great. You're on the door listening. It's just what did he say?
It's a tough decision because the one thing we never ever know is what it takes for him to get up every week.
Yeah,
we generally don't know. Does he practice once a week?
Yeah.
Does he get constant work in the morning, work in the afternoon, sleeps in a cryobaric chamber. I don't know, or cryobaric, whatever the hell that word is.
Yep.
We don't know what he goes through to get up every week. And you know me, I stopped playing local footy because it was just too hard to get up every week. Like, you know what I mean? My body was just failing me miserably. And I'm not running around like they are. No, I'm not expected to be at an elite level. So you don't know what it takes for him to get up every week. Now, if he is getting up, these games, no problem, and he's fit and he's loving it, he's still enjoying it.
That's the big one. If he's still enjoying it, I think Phil Rivers is that kind of guy, I think.
It's a pretty good organization to be a part of. They found a running game. They got a pretty good O-line. Their receivers started coming on certainly the second half of the year. They started really cold. But
they could do with one more,
100% they could.
Genuine number one they could do with.
They could also do with everyone could do with an elite tight end, but they could really do with one.
I like Jack Doyle. He just can't stay on the field. That's a problem. But, Ebron's a prime example last year. He gave them something that, they haven't had for a while. Now, he's a bit of a one-hit wonder, but, that sort of a guy.
Like I said with Jack Doyle is, if I need to stand shoulder to shoulder with somebody and we're about to have a fight, yeah, cool, put him right next to me. I'll go to battle with him.
Yeah.
But he can't do what the
can't stretch
level tight ends do. He just can't. He's a really good honest football player, and he'd be great as the second tight end.
Yeah, he'd still be super. Or he was actually more productive last year as the second behind Ebron than he was this year.
No surprise at all. Look, to directly answer your question, I actually think Phillip Rivers might retire.
I think so too. Yeah. Do you know what? I think it comes down to what the Colts want to do. I think if the Colts go, hey, Phillip, we're going after Stafford, or we're going after, I don't know, who's the other guy? Wentz. We're going hard after one of these guys. You can be here. It's going to be for $9 million, a high backup salary, and you can compete for the start, but you're going to be competing with a 3-year-old Matthew Stafford or 26-year-old Carson Wentz.
But right now, I reckon you get either one of those.
Oh, mate. I'd be going straight to the Detroit and going, hey, we'll give you a third right now. Done.
I'll give you a second for him, quite frankly.
Yeah, and you're not going to have second or nothing. Go, yep, done. As long as it's not a first, I'd give it any day of the week.
And you don't have to do anything extra because he doesn't really want to. They're rebuilding. They got nothing left.
He wants out. That Colts team, if they got Stafford, instant Super Bowl contender. Absolutely instant.
I can put Stafford on 4 teams. They become Super Bowl contenders.
Who? This is fun.
Colts, 49ers. Don't get away from me with that Denver guy.
I know you don't love Drew Lock. You love Drew Lock.
Colts, 49ers, Saints.
Yeah.
Is the big one. And
Las
Vegas Raiders.
You're going to do our boy Carr like that right in front of me?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to trade him to the Lions too, where his career will come to an end.
Very quickly.
Yeah. But you put him on all those, you put him on any of those teams, or quite frankly, put him on the Rams. Problem is they can't get out of Goff's contract, but he would be amazing on those teams.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah, they're pretty spot on. Bills quickly. I've always said that good teams find ways to win, and the Bills found a way to win. They should have won. It shouldn't have been as close. That fumble in the last quarter was 100% a fumble. I cannot believe they didn't overturn that. It should have been over then, but their defense came strong and they held off Rivers, who was on a roll at that point, and they held him off when they needed to. So, well done to the Bills. I still think they're a terrific team, but you know what? I gained a lot of respect for the Colts, and I keep beating the drum, but I cannot get enough of Frank Reich as a head coach. I just think the best thing that ever happened to the Colts was Josh McDaniels screwing them over. I think they can really sit, and they deserve it after that happening, in my opinion. That was a bad move by Josh McDaniels, and the fact that it worked out for them, I'm glad. I'm glad it did.
We do tend to talk about the losers more than the winners when we do these, so Bills fans we'll get to you guys, and hey, you might go really deep, so who knows? But
don't worry.
I'm really happy with them, really impressed with them.
We'll be doing our preview show again later in the week, and that's when the Bills are going to get theirs. But yeah, let's move on. Rams at Seahawks, and this was kind of the surprise for us. We were both on Seattle pretty hard. Their backup quarterback was in, and the Rams got the win 30-20. I wish I'd written down the backup quarterback's name. I had it. You know when you remember his name and you're like, I need to write that down. I know that backup quarterback's name, and then you just forget it as soon as you get into the limelight. It's the bright lights of the podcast. I can't handle the pressure. But he gets absolutely annihilated by
John Wolford.
Adams. John Wolford. He gets just straight up destroyed. Did you see the hit? A lot of contentious people that say it should have been a penalty. You know, I'm an offensive lineman, and I still urge on the side of if the quarterback's going to become a runner like that, he's live. And a running back, if that was a running back, there would be no question it wasn't a penalty. He slid one too late. He dove forward. He didn't slide. He didn't give up.
Protected. So
he's not protected. And Jamal Adams hit him like he would hit any other runner the exact same way. And Wolford, as I said, quarterback, he couldn't handle it. He's not used to getting hit like that. Doesn't know how to take a hit like that as much. Their equipment's not designed to take those sort of hits. Everything. It's his own fault. So I'm not feeling sorry for him. What I was impressed with, and we talked about this, Rich, the balls on Jared Goff, 11 days after surgery. Now, was he outstanding? Absolutely not. Was he good? No. Was he okay?
Yes, he was good. He was good enough.
Good. He made a couple of good throws, which was the difference in the game. Made a couple of throws that Russell Wilson didn't make, unfortunately. But just to come in, rally behind his team, get that win, make those throws, his teammates, I can guarantee you, are sitting on the sideline going, yeah, that's pretty tough.
Did you see the shot of him at one stage? He was just on the bench and he was just kind of looking at his thumbs.
Yeah.
Did you see how big the one who's had surgery on it? It's massive. It is so swollen.
I can't believe he was throwing a football. It must have been.
Well, it was. Not obviously coming out a bit quacking, but I was shocked he was able to play with that. Like that would have hurt. He'd be feeling that the next day.
Ballsy. I was impressed. It impressed me a lot. And I've been pretty big criticizer of Goff this year from his play on the field, but that gave me a lot of respect into him, like to be able to do that. It also made me think the Rams got away with a pretty stupid decision. They've got Blake Bortles on their roster too. I know Blake Bortles is a superstar, but the guy's thrown 40 touchdowns in the NFL. He should have been active in that game. They should have benched a guy and said to a starter, hey, sorry, bro, you're doing your gunner this week because we couldn't suit what's his name. Sorry. We have to suit Bortles because what if Goff had come in and taken a hit on that hand? Like it's just, they got away with it, but it could have been. It was a dreadful decision to not have him in the game because if Jared Goff couldn't play, and it was purely because they wanted to play with the Seahawks' minds down to the very last minute. That's why they wanted him. I don't think they ever thought Goff was going to start, but they wanted to mess with them and have him warming up and suited. So they didn't suit Bortles. And it almost cost them. It almost burned them. But it didn't. They got away with it. So, but yeah, that was one takeaway. I think just talking about the Rams, their defensive line is something else. So they pressured Wilson on 50% of the passing snaps.
Yeah. When you think about...
That's huge.
When you think about quick screens and quick slants and things like that are impossible to they're impossible to get pressure stats on. Yeah, that's some, the correlation of that would be the pressures would be on something like 70% of dropbacks.
Yeah,
like proper dropbacks.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy stat. And let's face it, Donald barely played in the second half.
Yeah, he hurt himself. Apparently, he's all good. It's
all clear.
He was ready to come on if they were, if it got to like a one-score game drive to win, they needed to stop. He would have come on, but he was good to go. Cooper Kupp apparently is all good too.
That's amazing.
They expect both of them to play.
That looked bad.
It did. It looked nasty, but the reports are both are expected to play next week. Now, I could be wrong. It's only Tuesday or Monday morning over in America. So, Tuesday morning in America. So, yeah, it's only early in the week still. Just quickly, Russell Wilson, the pick six he threw, I'm not putting that on him. If you run a wide receiver screen, that wide receiver completely dogged it. He didn't work hard to get to that guy. You cannot let the guy you're trying to block on a screen jump the route like that. That's the cardinal sin of screenplay. It was dreadful. because he doesn't see it. He just snaps that and throws it. He doesn't look because the expectation is he cannot get to that play because my guy's going to hit him as he runs down. It was soft. So that certainly wasn't his fault. And the only thing I want to do on the Seahawks is I thought DK Metcalf had an outstandanding game. I know he had a bit of a tantrum on the sideline, but all in all, he played he gave Ramsey a real. I thought he had 11 targets, 5 catches, 96 yards, 2 touchdowns. You could walk away from that game, both of them saying, you know what, we both made some plays. But Metcalf certainly held his own. And I'm telling you, Ramsey wasn't in one-on-one with him all day. I promise you that for a fact. So
he would have had help. So he could play. And he played pretty aggressive on him most of the day. So you could tell he had help.
And played well. Ramsey's an outstanding football player. He played very well too. But I just thought it was a matchup where you walked away going, like when Ramsey played against Mike Evans from your boys, you walk away going, yeah, that was a good matchup. They both went at it today. They both got theirs at times. So I love it when football's like that, especially a DB wide receiver matchup. It's always enjoyable. Yeah.
But my biggest concern for the Seahawks is they're a 2-man team right now.
But they can't protect Russell Wilson. And
no, I still can't. I feel like we've been talking about this forever.
We started the SEM podcast 5 years ago, and I can swear I could go back and find us having the same conversation back then. They need to protect Russell Wilson. They could protect 50% of play. It's not good enough. Not good enough. No. And they paid for it dearly. And as Wilson, I think Schottenheim is done, the offensive coordinator. I'm waiting to see the little ticker pop up that he's been fired because he's been hanging on by dear life. They stick to the running game too much.
But that's Carroll's MO. Like that, he'll be doing what Carroll wants him to do. Like that's always been Carroll's MO. Run, vertical. That's who he is. It's what he was at USC. It's what he's always been in the pros. That's what he wants. That's the type of offense he likes. So, yeah, I mean, you can get after Shoddy if you want, but I bet he's doing what's being asked.
You love him. You've always loved Shoddy.
I liked him on the Jets Hard Knocks. I thought he was really good. I've had a soft spot for him ever since.
That was Rex Ryan.
Yeah, it was the best.
Greatest line in Hard Knocks history is when he's looking at the team running around and he goes, shit, man, some of these fuckers are going to have to play for us.
I know. So because like some of these guys are going to make our team.
In the history of Hard Knocks by far. And he's real fat there. Oh, my God. It was that.
You're sneaking the snacks for movie night. It was great.
If anyone's new to football and that, go back. 2011 Jets, I reckon it was.
Ooh, good question.
I only did it once. Go back and find the New York Jets Hard Knocks. You will not be disappointed. It is absolutely outstanding. Awesome. So go back and watch that. Don't go back and watch Atlanta.
Jets were 2010.
2010. There you go. Yeah, the best one by far. It's all on YouTube. I've watched it before. It's awesome. It's awesome. Let's move on to your Buckies, Rich. 31 over football team 23. We watched this one together. We went down and had a couple of cervezas at the Sporting Globe in Chirnside Park, where I'll be attending the Super Bowl and cannot wait. We said at one point, I think I turned to you or you turned to me, one of us, just we're both in the same mindset. And we're like, they are letting them hang around. This is not, you don't want to make this a 1-score game late in the game. They did let it be that, but the young quarterback, I'm going to get his name right because, as I said before, I don't write down quarterbacks' names. I just forget about them because that's who I am now.
I keep calling him Hinkie or Heineken, so I can't get it right either.
Taylor Heineke. He showed a little bit something. He was 306 yards, a touchdown, interception, also ran for 46 yards and a touchdown. On a day where you could see the Bucs went in and went, hey, if anyone's going to beat us, it's Heineke. We're not letting you run the ball. They completely shut down. Other than Heineke had a 7.7 average, the next best was Antonio Gibson at 2.2. Sue was eating up. Their defense, their run defense was outstanding. If it wasn't for a few big plays on offense, it could have been a really different game.
I think it was everything we kind of expected it to be. Anytime the Bucs have gone against a top 5 defense this year, they have struggled. And for the football team, their front seven's for real. I mean, the Bucs are good too, but
I thought they handled them pretty well. I thought the offensive line handled them pretty well. Like don't forget, they scored 20 points in the first half. It was 20-7 at halftime. They just took their foot off the brake in the second half. That's what 100% it was.
And they went to a 2 shell as well on defense just to, let them
make it harder.
Just don't get the big play, make them use up clock to get their scores, all the stuff you do in NFL games. But that being said, it's still, the Bucs have struggled. I mean, I know they put up 31 points, but it was not a complete game from them by any stretch of the imagination. The O looked rusty, the D-line looked rusty. So it'll be really interesting next week, to say the least.
Mike, the Bucs have played down to everyone this year. They've almost lost to the New York Giants. Like they've played down to a lot of teams this year. They did enough. I'm starting to get really excited watching Antonio Brown run around. He's constantly a big play waiting to happen. And just quietly, Mike Evans, who we all know I have a soft spot for, 6 catches for 119 yards. And there were some good catches. He took some hits. He made some contested catches. Off the injury he took last week, mate, that's toughness. You can't I don't think people don't understand what that does for teammates when you see a guy like that who's clearly dinged up. He was clearly hurt, and he was just putting his body on the line over and over again. That stuff is what makes playoff teams great. And just wanted to highlight those 2 guys. Also missing a couple on defense, Rich. We all know how big Bush is. Devin White is for that linebacker, especially from pass rushing point of view. He's blitzing 9 sacks this year. He's incredibly important to their pass rushing system, the way they blitz and move. So I think that didn't help, but they did enough. They did enough. One question to you on football team: why wasn't Taylor Heineke playing all year?
It's a fair question. I think it's because they had the guy they just cut.
Haskins, Dwayne Haskins.
Because Haskins was there. And look, I kind of I actually think they're the up-and-coming team in the East. I'm sure you don't want to hear that, but
no, I think they've got their D-line's outstanding. It's terrifying.
Yeah. I actually think
Ron Payne's a scary dude, the D tackle.
It's not just that. It's not just the D-line, though, as well. That defense as a whole is a really good unit. And if Heineke's, I don't know if he's about this guy that we saw on the weekend, get him a couple of weapons.
Would you give him a shot next year?
I would.
Yeah.
You're not going to sign him up flat min. Matt Flynn style, but you're going to have him there. And I think comeback player of the year. Oh, very Smith. I think bad day. Sorry, I got the worst hay fever. I can't think straight. I'm so full of drugs.
Alex Smith.
I think Alex Smith's going to retire. They're going to have to bring in
this year.
Yep. So they're going to bring in some more quarterbacks.
Or knowing Alex Smith, he'll happily just be like, "I'll be a backup. Pay me, cut my salary, and just pay me off."
I hate to say it. I don't want him there.
No, but someone will.
Someone else. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
I don't want him. I think he'd be happy to just move somewhere else and be a backup. He'd be fine.
Yeah. I genuinely believe the football team are a couple of O-lineman pieces, a quarterback, and maybe an elite receiver away from being a really good team.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think they were the right team to win the division this year, personally.
Coaching staff appears to be doing what we'd need from them. I actually think they're really close. Yeah,
Ron Rivera is great at building. So he did this exactly the same thing in Carolina. Went in and all of a sudden they had dominant players everywhere. Luke Kuechly was obviously the star there. They drafted him. Imagine if they go and hit on a player like they hit on Luke Kuechly. And they get someone, but maybe he's a wide receiver, maybe he's a running back, maybe he's a guard. Who knows? But Ron Rivera's done it, and I like Ron Rivera. I got a lot of time. I think he's a very good coach. So I'm excited to see how it works out. And he's had a tough year. If anyone, I think Washington definitely deserved the East, and they put on a good game today or yesterday. It was a good game of football. It wasn't over. I never thought the Bucs were going to lose, but also in the back of my mind, I was like, they could. They're a score. They're one bad PI call from this being on the 1 yard.
Yeah, one weird thing going wrong. Yeah,
that's what happens in big games when you leave. We were saying you leave it to one score. You're a cornerback slipping, a safety blowing his coverage and giving up a deep ball. You're waiting for fate to burn you, and it didn't. The Bucs were good enough, and they move on. let's go on to another terrific game. Ravens at the Titans. And this was filled with some heat. Man, these two teams. Do you think the Titans maybe regret dancing on their logo? Maybe just a little bit? They could have just maybe not been dicks that week?
Yeah, they will be now.
I think
it's the kind of thing where if it works out, like if they'd won, it'd be like, yeah, dance all over them. It didn't. So we're obviously going to criticize. You know me. I just don't care about stuff like that.
Nah.
The interesting thing here,
childish doing it with 2 minutes left and 3 timeouts. Lucky Lamar Jackson bailed them out with a 30-yard run to seal the game. Because if Titans had got the ball back and won that game,
it would have been great. Harbaugh just munching on that humble pie would have been so good. But all that being said, they did exactly what you and I said they had to do if they wanted to win.
Make Tannehill win.
Make Tannehill win, and he couldn't. And deep down,
on 18 carries for Derrick Henry, no one held him to less than 50 yards all year. Best defensive performance of the year against the Titans. This was like a top 2 offense. I think they were number 2 in the league. We were saying. Yeah,
but their defense has been awful. It's one of the worst.
Their defense stepped up. They got off to a 10-0 lead, and I'm sitting there, 5:30 in the morning, going, "Oh yeah, I might be going back to bed. This is not looking good." The Ravens look rattled. AJ Brown's tearing them apart, and then all of a sudden, the Ravens just slowly they brought it back on defense. They only gave up 3 more points for the game, and then Lamar Jackson had that 56-yard touchdown run where it looked like he was about to get sacked, and then he was gone. And then the safety had a shot on him and didn't. The safety had a clean shot on him with about 5 yards either side. And I know Lamar's an extremely good athlete, and this just proves he didn't get a hand on him. He didn't touch Lamar Jackson in the open field. There's not many receivers that can do that sort of thing. I don't think there's any running backs that do that sort of thing because they're too big. He's a different sort. And then from there, you felt that momentum switch. You felt it on that team. I thought Did you hear Vrabel get after the refs in his press conference?
I actually didn't. When I put that on the rundown, I couldn't find it.
So he said that the refs cared more about not calling penalties because it looks better for playoff games to not call penalties. I don't want to be a dick, Vrabel, but I'm going to be. The touchdown to AJ Brown was a clear push off. He almost pushed the cornerback into the dirt with an arm extension. And they let that go. They then also called offensive PI on the Baltimore Ravens, which would have given Baltimore a first down and a first down from the 30 that got called back. And then Justin Tucker missed a 51-yard field goal, which would have made it a 2-score game in the last quarter. That was one you got your way. It was an offensive PI. It was a terrible call. The only one called on the Ravens all year. And the PI on Marcus Peters for the interception, that was what he wanted. It was not PI. The receiver wasn't looking at the ball. Marcus Peters was playing the ball, and the receiver, who was still looking downfield at Marcus Peters, ran straight into him and fell over his feet, and Peters stood up and intercepted it. Stiff shit. Get over it. It's one thing I hate about Vrabel. If you're going to be that dick when it doesn't go your way, shut up and eat it. Eat humble pie, as you would say. He's really starting to irritate me, Mike Vrabel. I think he's a great coach. And I think he's got a very good future in the league, and I think he's going to be terrific. But learn, you're not Bill Belichick, mate. No one's buying it. Just eat humble pie. Walk off and go, yeah, look, I thought that could have gone our way. But you know what? My receiver almost threw a cornerback to the ground for his touchdown, so that they called it pretty even all day. How do you walk away arguing? And I hate refs. I'll bury refs whenever I get a chance. They got it pretty right. They played it pretty even, I thought.
Yeah. I hate bagging refs after games. I don't like it.
It's a stupid move because you know what? You had plenty of opportunities. Tannehill shouldn't have made that throw, all that sort of stuff. And you know what? Maybe you should have got Derrick Henry going more. But I'm just going to say, last thing on this game, did you see the interview with Lamar Jackson and I think it's Tracy Salters from the stand up directly after the game? And she opened up by saying, this game was billed as you versus Derrick Henry, and you got yours. And he stopped her and was like, "Hey, I don't mean to be rude, but this game can be billed as whatever it wants. This game was about the Baltimore Ravens versus the Tennessee Titans, and the Baltimore Ravens were the reason we won this game. He said I threw a dumbass interception, then was like, oh, sorry, a silly interception. It was. If you're sitting in the locker room and every player on that team would have seen that night, you're walking, oh yeah, that's our guy. we're going to, the offensive line are going, I'm going to block the crap for that guy. He's not good.
I'm happy for Lamar that he won because he was starting to get a bit of playoff stank on him.
Yeah, never won a high school championship, never won a college championship.
Yeah, and couldn't come through.
Yep.
So I'm glad he got that win.
All that stuff. Marcus Brown was outstanding in this game. He's really come on strong the last 3 or 4 weeks. They're getting confident at the right time. Now, unfortunately, they've got to go to Buffalo and try and beat Buffalo, which is no easy task. But you know what? A team that can drain the clock, keep the ball off Josh Allen, they're a chance. I think it's going to be a great game.
They got more chance than anybody else in the AFC who would have been going there.
I agree. I think the Ravens have the best chance of upsetting next week. I agree.
I think it's going to be the best game next week.
Yeah, agreed. Let's move on. I don't want to spend much time on this game at all. There's 9, 20. Mitch Trubisky, I'm glad he was dreadful because this maybe means that the Bears will notice that and not do the same thing next year because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again for the same result, and they've got to move on very quick. I think they keep Nagy because what he's been able to do the last few weeks to get that offense going with the guys he's got there has been good, but move on. Find a new quarterback. You've got to let Mitch. You didn't give him a 5th-year option for a reason. Let him walk. Simple as that.
Let them all go.
Yeah.
No quarterback should be brought back at that team.
No, I tend to agree.
Just quietly, can I quickly talk about Breeze in his arm?
He's got a noodle arm.
It's accurate as hell still. But gee whiz, there's not much velocity left on. I really do feel like this will be his last year.
I think it's the writings. I think everyone's saying it too. I don't think Drew Brees has not denied it once either. He hasn't said, "Oh yeah, I'm done," but I think everyone's pretty sure he's going to be done. And you know what? It would make me over the moon if you finish with a Super Bowl like Peyton Manning, because he was certainly better than Peyton Manning was his last year.
Oh, definitely.
So it wouldn't bother me one bit if he ended his career with a Super Bowl because he's been an outstanding player with some, he had some terrible luck in the playoffs. Some terrible luck. So,
but he's a Super Bowl winner, so
he has won one.
His legacy as well.
Just on the Saints, similar to the Bucs, they kind of played down. The Bears' defense have been solid all year. It certainly hasn't been the problem for that team. When Akeem Hicks plays, they tend to be a lot better. And he played and was very good. Khalil Mack's a good player. Roquan Smith didn't play their star middle linebacker, which was this was a good effort by them. But to me, the Saints never really got out of 2nd or 3rd gear, and I was never, ever, ever worried they were going to lose. Not even one bit. I would have put my hand up.
You and I watch football, and we'll see a play, and we'll go, "Ooh," and we'll roll it back to look at the design of how it got open and all the rest of it. Yep. I didn't do that once in this game.
Not one time. They did nothing special. Saints.
Nothing at all. They showed the Bucs nothing.
Yeah, it was almost nothing. Hey, the Bucs will be watching because they played yesterday. Do not show them anything. Like Kamara barely played the second half.
It was basically all they wanted to do was win, and they did.
And you know what they did? They stopped the running game. They smothered David Montgomery, which was the reason the Bears have been winning. Which Saints went in and said, you know what, Mitch Trubisky, if you're this hot flash, if all right, try and do it without David Montgomery's 150 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. Try and do it without that. Have fun. Beat us on your own. And he couldn't because he's not a good quarterback. He's not a good NFL quarterback. Simple as that. Nope. Let's get on to one of the wildest games I've ever watched. Me and you were in a wild text message.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, it's back. Browns win 48-37 over the Steelers. I still cannot believe it was an 11-point game. I just cannot believe it. It was unbelievable. It started with a snap over Phillip Rivers' head from veteran center Marquise Pouncey, who, it's been around for 15 years, snaps the ball over his head. Him and Connor are both running back to recover it. And then at the last minute, Roethlisberger leaves it for Connor, and Connor runs past it and slips over. Browns recover it. He hits the ball back into the end zone so the Browns can recover it for a touchdown. He then threw 3 picks in the first quarter after that.
What was on the next play?
The next play. It was 28-0 at quarter time. And then Pittsburgh score a touchdown with about 3 minutes left, and you're thinking, it's 31-7. It's still going to be tough. Then the Browns bang in one more touchdown before halftime to make it 35-7. Pittsburgh score 13 unanswered points in the third quarter. They score the first touchdown in the fourth quarter. And I'm thinking,
butthole in Cleveland tightened up.
I'm like, oh my God, this is over. And I said this to you, Rich, Baker Mayfield again got his big cojones went out there, flopped them on the floor, and went, "Hey boys, let's just win this game. All right, let's just score a touchdown." Drove them down. Now Chubb scored on a 30-yard screen, but that wasn't all. Baker made some terrific plays. I'm super impressed with what Baker's done this year. I think he's really turned a corner. That defense was pretty bad, but they generated turnovers to build a 35-0 lead, and then they were just kind of playing off the whole game, thinking they'll never catch us. And to their defense, they didn't.
Well, the big thing was the coach, who's the special teams coach, who I completely forget his name because why the hell should I know it?
Yeah, without
he
your coach.
Said, he even said, he goes, watch this, people will be so frustrated by what we allow underneath today. And it was the game plan going in. They're going to say, let him dink and dunk, we'll come down, we'll tackle. Don't give up the big game, don't give up the big gainers, all those sorts of things. So that was always the plan. Now they got off the leash a bit more than I'm sure they planned, but that was always the game plan going in for the Browns defense. The start of this game was wild. It's the only way to describe it. It was wild. How Connor and Roethlisberger just didn't boot that out the back. Zero awareness. Like, it literally looked like two guys in a training drill who didn't really care. It was on a Thursday night. It was a bit cold.
It certainly rattled them.
It was, quite frankly, that play was pathetic. Just boot it out the back. Take the 2 points. Because you get the ball back.
Yeah.
And it only cost you 2.
Let's just... Ben Roethlisberger threw for 501 yards on 47 completions. And he threw 4. He had to.
Absolutely had to.
He certainly played very well after the first quarter. Second half in particular. Now, he threw a bad pick at the end, but he was just trying to make a play then. They were 2 scores with 2 minutes to go. He had to. But I think this really does bring up with the Steelers, just to wrap up their season. They were kind of a bit big fat phony. They kind of win the Big Fat Phony Award this year. To win 11 games, and then what did they finish? 12. You win 11 in a row and then only win 12 to finish the season. You lose games to the Bengals, the Browns, and then they were kind of on the way out. Injury to the linebacker course certainly didn't help. But I don't know. If you're them, are you happy rolling with Roethlisberger next year? Personally, I would. I think he's shown enough to bring him back again if he wants to. But you've got to do something. The running game's got to get going.
I think Roethlisberger will come back. Connor, as much as he took over from Bell and everyone was like, oh, we don't need Bell and blah, blah, blah. And he did have a good first.
Still a great move letting go of Bell because Bell's the third string in Kansas City.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Letting Bell go is the right decision. But Connor ain't Bell, not at the time, and he never will be that good, ever. He was pedestrian this year, and it's someone who had him on his fantasy team, just so frustrating. And I didn't start him most weeks. He needs to improve out of sight, or he needs to be gone if you're the Steelers. Like they've got to get a genuine back in there. They've got great receivers, but as we know, season gets later and later, it gets cold in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And all the other teams you play in the North, they all play outside.
Yeah. Imagine if after that snap that went over his head and the Browns score a touchdown, if you can come and go, all right, let's just put together a 12-drive play, a 15-play drive here, run the ball 10 of it, let Roethlisberger dump it off a couple of times for first downs on play action, score a touchdown and tie this up. Like then the Browns are like, oh, there goes our momentum. You know what I mean? Instead it was, oh, well, what we can't run the ball because they're killing us. Let's just throw it and then pick. Like that was it. They got in a hole. And just quietly, Browns had 38 points at halftime. So realistically, they could have not scored in the second half and still won this game.
Oh, yeah, they would have too.
Their work in the first half was just you can't belittle that. Although the Steelers rolled home, you can't belittle what they did in that first half. It was absolutely outstanding.
Well, they played prevent for the entire second half.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure every time they score, they chew up tons of clock. Now, the Brownies had a couple too many 3-and-outs in the second half for my liking, but
you had to drain a bit more.
Whatever, you won.
But they had that one drive where Landry had 2 catches on third down. I thought Landry was outstanding as well.
He's so much better without OBJ. Get him out of the building.
Move on for OBJ. But Nick Chubb then catch the screen. I think you'd struggle. You would honestly struggle to go and find me a better running back duo in league history. Like something better. better than them, I think you would genuinely struggle to find me that. And I'm not talking like in the 40s where all they did was run the ball. Like in the Super Bowl era, I just don't think you find it.
Mike Allstott.
Who?
Warwick Dunn and Mike Allstott.
Mike Allstott was a fullback, Richard. These are two genuine running backs.
You might have a running back.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, on 3rd and 1. But yeah, I just think this. We'll obviously preview the Chiefs-Browns game, but just on it, the Browns with that running attack, if they could generate a couple of turnovers and then run the crap out of the ball, that's a recipe to beat Mahomes. Now, I don't know if it does, and I don't think it does, but it definitely could.
Yeah, I don't feel as great about just. Yeah, I don't feel as great about just going, oh yeah, whatever, Chiefs.
Yeah,
like, I don't feel that great about that anymore.
Nah, not at all. And you know what? If for nothing, this season has been a huge success for the Cleveland Browns. They've found an identity. Oh. If I was them, I would trade off OBJ and re-sign Kareem Hunt and have 2 running backs. Like, just do it. Like, pay them both.
I'm somebody paying
running backs.
I'd just cut him if I couldn't find a trade partner. I wouldn't wear him in a slide.
Surely someone gives a 7th. Like, surely the Colts come in and go, you know what, we're getting Matthew Stafford. Hey, OBJ, how about you come and run some routes for us? We've got cannon arm Stafford to throw. Like, surely someone will want him. There's no doubt in my mind someone will want him.
I think there's probably a market for him, but I'd definitely get him out of there.
Yeah, I think so. I think for team chemistry, they've been much better this year. And Stefanski, I know that playoffs don't come into the voting, but coach of the year. Absolutely coach of the year.
Sneaky good football player is Peoples-Jones, one of the other wide receivers on that team.
He's a big dude for a
guys. Just really
a tight end.
Yeah, just really nice route runner. Just does his job. I think he complements Landry beautifully.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, mate. Also, Tomlin punting on 4th and 1. That was the game. That was when Baker then went and scored. Terrible. When
they had all the momentum at the time. Yeah. I can't believe they didn't go for
that. No one's dragging you over coals for trying to win. It's just
no.
In today's era, with what they know with analytics and that sort of stuff, like everything pointed towards going for it. It's just
what I hated most about it was the way they tried to draw them offside with the punt team out there. I really didn't like that. Yeah. If you're trying to draw them offside, line up with 2 backs in the eye and a tight end. As if you're just going to jam it in there, give a nice hard count, and they might jump over. And if they don't,
because like Roethlisberger's also like 6'7". All we would have had to do was fall forward, and he would have got a first down. Like, just insanity to me.
Yeah, and then
it cost Tomlin, and I think Tomlin's a good coach. I think he's a good cheerleader, I should say. I think he's probably sitting at home. He doesn't need us to tell him. He's probably sitting at home right now, looking at that over and going, "Why didn't I go for that?"
It didn't help right after Jordan Berry gets a horrible bounce, and it just kicked into the end zone so quickly. So they got to come out to the 20 to start the drive. If they pinned him like on the 7, something like that.
That's what he was hoping to pin him inside the 20, get a real quick 3 and out, because he would have thought they're going to be soft here. They're just going to try and run it. But to the Browns' defense, they came out and went, "No, you know what? We're not running it. Baker, let's go. Let's win this game. Score us 1 more, and this is over." And then when that happened, it still got close again, but we were all pretty comfortable then. It was all over.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's it for the games, guys. Absolutely awesome week of football. I know we had to endure the Bears as a 7 seed, but I'll pay that price easily if I get a Colts every year. For me, the 7 seeds have been a complete success. The 6 games, 3 in each day, awesome. It was like having 3 primetime games. I enjoyed just watching 1 game in the morning and just really being able to focus on guys. It was awesome. So don't go back. And all the reports are they're not going back. They're keeping it exactly the same. Yeah, and I think they're thinking of even extending the season 1 week. You'll never get an argument for that from me. The more the football, the better for me. So I'll never argue.
The talk is 2 preseason games.
Yeah, 1 extra
regular season, 1 extra playoff, which the playoffs are already in. But
I'll do an extra bye. Do you reckon if they go 17 games, they do 2 bye weeks, and that makes up the second week?
Potentially. I'm not sure what the collective bargain agreement says, because they did just sign a new one.
No, I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate two bye weeks, 17 games.
I think the next, so it'll be 17 games over
But if
19 wins, that's a long time. That would push the season.
But
So
if you
maybe
lose
not.
Season weeks, you start 2 weeks earlier. And you don't gain another week of playoffs because you play them in the same weekend. You're adding 2 games into 2 time slots and 3. So it's the same length, but you don't have 2 bullcrap preseason games. Because let's be honest, you just treat preseason like week 3 is your game 1, which is normally week 3, where you play your starters for the first half, see what you've got, and then the second game is just play all your backups who are trying to get junk time. But coaches have always said they know exactly who they're putting on the roster by the 3rd preseason game. It's just to see. It might be one guy. It's like 3 or 4 guys they're trying to decide with by week 4. It's not they know who they want.
Yeah.
So
very rarely does somebody play that well in the preseason that they just pinch a roster spot they weren't supposed 100%.
To. Yeah, people tend to think it's not, but it's very rare. Just quickly before we finish up, Rich, I wanted to give a special shout out to our mate JA over in Ireland. He sent a message this week to me, which I passed on to all the boys, the fantasy boys, yourself, DJ and Jules, just, basically thanking us and saying that it's been a pretty rough year. I didn't realize how rough a year it had been in Ireland. They've had it a bit tougher than we've had it in Australia. Yeah. It's been pretty crappy for them.
Highest per capita infection rate.
Yeah. So they've been in lockdown. He said they've pretty much been in lockdown since February. He's barely seen his family, his mates. And he basically thanked us he said it was just a real pleasure every week to listen to the show and feel like he was in a room with mates listening to his mates talk. And I think that's something, when me and you started for SEN, we sat down with our boy Christaki Tyler, and the one thing we said is we're not ESPN and we don't think we know football better than a lot of people in the world. But what we want to do is give an Australian view on it. We know a little bit about it and we love it and we're passionate. And we want people, when they listen to us, feel like they're sitting in a room with us, having a beer with us. That was our goal. And for him to say that, I know you listen every week, mate. It absolutely means the world to all of us. That feedback, that's the stuff that makes it all worth it. It honestly does. So thank you very much, Joe. We really appreciate it, mate. And keep listening. And Richie, thank you for being here this week, mate. Season's long. It's not long left, but we're up to some exciting football games. Look out for the preview live show later in the week. And thanks for everyone's support around that as well. Everyone really got around that and watched it and gave us some great feedback. So we'll continue to do that for the playoffs. But you'll hear from myself and Richie next Tuesday after the playoff games, preview show later in the week. And thanks everyone for being here. And Richie, thanks again, mate.
No worries.